How's everybody doing today? Here I have my son's 2007 Toyota Solara. Timing belt broke. This is an interference engine. I pulled out the front 3 spark plugs and put an inspection camera down in there. And the front bank, there's no bent valves. So I can either take the intake off, pull the plugs out of the back, and see if there's bent valves back there, or I can just throw a timing belt on it and see what happens. I think even if it did bend valves on the back one, I'm going to pull the head and fix it. But I think instead of going through all that, I'm just going to throw a timing belt on it and see what happens. This bracket here, it has a pin under there that sticks right there, down in there, but it does come off of there. So just tap it with a hammer back and forth and wiggle that out of there. I get the timing cover off of it. The upper timing cover off. Definitely broke the belt. So this definitely broke. Yeah, right down there I can see it on the crank area where it's broke. And it does have a Gates belt on it. I don't know when it was put on there, but it does have a Gates belt sticker there, but I can't see the date on it. Take the 2 belts off of it and the engine mount bracket.
Looks like I got to get the harmonic balancer and the lower plastic engine cover off before I can get that mount bracket out. So that's a 22 right there. I got the lower timing cover off, the pulley off. So you can see there the water pump is wet right there. So needs a water pump and timing belt kit. So I'm gonna run down to O'Reilly's and grab that.
There's the part number of the water pump timing belt kit. It's like $188 plus tax. Belt, water pump, tensioner, idler pulley, it looks like. Now let's get the coolant drained. Right there's the cockpit, right in the middle of the radiator. View of the kit with it opened up. Got the belt, water pump, tensioner, idler pulley, and where the tensioner hits here, and a water pump gasket.
It looks like we are going to have to take the power steering pump loose so it can pull back so we can get that tensioner out of there. And then we'll need to take out this stud right here from the water pump so we can get the water pump out of there. I got my water pump on there. I had to take the 12 out of the top of the power steering pump to let that drop down so I could get my tensioner out, get all this brake cleaned up.
Putting my tensioner pulley back on. I'm gonna put a little Loctite right there because that goes through to the inside of the block. I'm not sure if that's a water jacket or not, so just putting a little sealant there. Put my new tensioner on.
All right, your top dead center mark is on this plate back here. Right there. It's hard to see. I couldn't even see it at all. I had to go in there and find it and clean it out with the screwdriver. But that is your top dead center mark. And then your timing mark for your belt is right here on the face of the gear. So I'm gonna take my belt, put it on here, run it around the water pump, up around the front cam, under the idler pulley, over the back cam, and back around the tensioner pulley.
Belt, you have 2 solid lines and 1 dotted line. The dotted line goes on the crank. And then a lot of belts will have an arrow that says front, which this one don't have. So I'm just gonna take the belt and have these letters facing outwards, passenger side of the car. So they're gonna be facing out. That's how I'm gonna do it. I got my dots on the crank down there. There's my line for the cam. there's my mark for the cam. I'm going to turn that cam a little bit to where I can get that lined up. Alright, I got my mark there on the front cam lined up, ran it underneath the idler pulley. Now I'm going to turn with 17 wrench. I'm going to turn my back cam to get it lined up with the mirror. Lined up. I gotta make sure it stayed on the crank down there. Let me check it with the mirror. Alright, it stayed where I wanted it to on the crank. It was hard to get over the tensioner pulley. I just tucked the 17mm wrench on the back cam, pulled up on it a little bit, and wiggled it up on the tensioner pulley. So now double check, triple check your marks, make sure they're lined up. You can see that one right through there, actually. Okay, so that's my two cams. And I double check the crank. It's lined up. Now I can pull my pin on the tensioner. Okay, that's it. Now I'm going to take and spin I'm going to put the crankshaft bolt in and spin it over 2 times just to make sure everything stays lined up. Now your yellow lines will be in different places, but you can check your marks here to your marks on your cover. And the back mark on the cover looks a little different. See if I can get in there for you. It is on that tab right there. Right there. That little indention. But I used to spin them 2 times on all my timing jobs. I really don't do that anymore. Once I know I have them in time, in my opinion, that's not needed. The main reason I'm doing it this time on this one is because I'm worried about bent valves. I want to spin it all the way around and make sure it's free all the way around and no pistons are hitting the valves. Another look inside the front 3 cylinders before I put the plugs back in. None of them look like they're hanging open there. Cylinder. None of them look like they're hanging open there. Third cylinder piston's up too high. I can't get my camera in there. So you might be saying, why didn't you take the intake off and check the back 3 cylinders to make sure everything looked okay back there? Well, because to take that intake off and check that bank would take me about the same amount of time as it would to put this timing belt on and water pump. So I'm going to fix the car regardless. So even if I have to take this all back apart, pull the heads off, and fix the valves, I'm doing it. So I just figured time-wise, I'll go ahead and get the belt, put it on there, and see what happens. It's very possible there are some bent valves back there. But I'm going to put my 3 spark plugs and coils back in. And I think I'm going to try to fire it up just like this here, all tore apart, and just see what happens. Just to clarify, this is my son's car. If this would have been a customer's car in the shop, I would have tore the intake off and checked all the cylinders before spending money on a belt and water pump and stuff, So the only reason I'm doing this way is because it is my son's car. All right, there's no timing cover, no drive belts, nothing like that. I just got my coils and my spark plugs put back in it. I'm gonna crank it over and see what happens. Keep your fingers crossed. 3.3 liter interference engine. Let's see what happens. Oh wow. He's running. I don't even feel a misfire. Oh my goodness. How in the world? I think we might have got lucky. I don't know. I don't feel a misfire. I can't let it run too long. I don't have no coolant or nothing in it, but might have got lucky. Now once it idles down, could it have a little miss? Maybe, but all right, I'm gonna get her all put back together. But hey, wow, can't believe that. So I guess it is possible for a 3.3 liter Toyota engine to break a timing belt and not bend the valves. Maybe not likely, but it is possible. All right, putting this little spacer back on the crankshaft. Make sure the bevel is pointing outwards. All right, before we put our bottom timing cover on, we need to put our mount bracket on. All right, well this thing is running perfect. I've driven it about 20, 25 miles, 2 or 3 stops, key ignition cycles and stuff. I can't believe it's running perfect. So it did not bend any valves. So a 3.3 liter Toyota engine can break a belt and survive. So I'm very surprised. It's been sitting out there forever beside the shop because I mean it's an interference engine, so I was like feeling pretty positive that it was going to have bent valves and I was going to have to do the heads. Wasn't looking forward to it. It's a bigger job, so been sitting out there a while, but timing belt water pump kit fixed it right up. All right, thanks for watching. I hope you all have a great day.